Chris Grawl's in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Happy is, we've got some of his work to tell you about coming up after the show. I know that Mr. Happy, Chris Grawl, who is the small unit tactics military consultant for most of my work, firearms consultant for most of my work, he usually doesn't listen to the story. He comes back after, but we'll see him in the second half of the show. Am I on Twitch instead of YouTube this week? All right. You know what, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. I had something I wanted to share with you, but now I can't remember what it was. Coming up after we get to the read, sorry, time is up. We are going to talk about, we've got updates on the CRYPT Book II, and we've got a super fun prop gun in development for CRYPT II. If you are a gun nut, if you like firearms, you need to come back. Either listen to the story and come back at the bottom of the hour, just stick with me the whole time. You guys are going to love this shit. And I'm only giving you a little bump, just a taste of what's coming for you. And I think you're all going to be effing crazy for it. So before I get started, if you know other junkies who are really like their firearms, they're going to want to watch the second half of this episode. Steve Rickyberg, how you doing, son? Michael Grace, Paul Fisher in the house, named character. My Whitaker in the house, named character. Happy birthday, Abby. Happy birthday, Abby. We'll talk about that later. Let's get into business. Let's go. All right, ladies and gents. I only look partially cadaver-like. Let's have a go. All right. Lost you people from Twitter. This is how it's done. Here we go. Hello and welcome to Slay episode number 49. I'm going to get you caught up on the story, and then we're all going to charm some snakes. Previously on Slay, Lincoln's part-time gig as Delilah Droman's bodyguard has money once again flowing into the Old Stone Church. But it's not enough to get him, Magda, Ariella, and Billy out of debt, which is why Lincoln is off to the Bayou to hunt down the Loa in Louisiana and collect the dead or alive bounty on her head. Billy finished his first lesson with Kellius Droman. How did that go for Billy? Find out next on Slay, episode 49. With pain radiating through him like the slowly dwindling echo of a cannon fire, and Dragon whining and circling his feet like a thresher shark packing in fish, Billy stumbled into the nave. Tough day at school, Junior? Magda asked. Did you pass a note to that cute girl in history and she checked no? She was sitting in a brand new leather recliner, one of two, and, hey, a new matching couch. Ariella was spending money again. Billy stumbled to the couch, collapsed into it. The instant his back hit the cushions, Dragon sprang onto his chest and attacked him with an energetic flurry of tiny tongue kisses. Billy scrunched his eyes and his mouth tight, gripped Dragon's chest, and held the dog slightly at bay, his fingertips scratching at her shoulders. She squirmed and lurched, trying to lick his face again. You're so funny, Mags, Billy said. A regular comedian. I hurt so much, it feels like my molecules will break down to the constituent atoms at any minute. But sure, go ahead, make fun of me. If you think people here aren't going to mock you when you're hurt, you picked the wrong Old Stone Church. This couch was way nicer than the old one that had springs fighting their way through the tattered old blankets that kept them at bay. The pain echo faded a bit. Billy was home. Magda had her favorite blue bong angling from her lap to the crook of her right elbow. She held the ear cuff Link took from the Lich in Lynchburg. Mags, did you know that Psycho Droman has something he calls the pylon of pain? I did not. Magda shifted the bong from her left elbow to her right. Is that inserted orally or rectally? It's this big black onyx thing, Billy said. 2 stories tall. He made me put my hand on it and he made you stroke it real slow. Sounds like a tender moment, Lil B. Billy sat up, set Dragon on the couch next to him. Her long furred tail swished. For 8 hours, all I did was keep my hand on it while he sent pain. That's what he sent. All through my body. My only job was to try and stay calm. Did you? Did you? Billy closed his eyes, remembering how his body had revolted at the agony. Like being electrocuted, maybe, but 10 times worse. Fire had curled out from his hands, miniature solar flares, searching for something to burn. Droman had doused the flames with the most casual flick of his fingers. Doused the flames, then told Billy to put his hand back on the pillar. Not so much, Billy said. Magda turned the ear cuff over and over in her fingers. Link's on his way to Louisiana, she said. In about 15 minutes, I gotta put this thing on. I'll be hunting with him again. Billy would have thought she would be excited. Didn't seem like she was. So, you being in Link's ear during the hunt, that's a good thing? Magda slowly turned the cuff. Yeah, she said. I guess. She sounded distant, not like herself at all. Mags, you okay? She looked at Billy. Why wouldn't I be? He could take her at face value, or he could push a little. He sensed her stress. Was it fear? She had done so much for him. Maybe he could be there now for her. I don't know you all that well, Billy said, but I get the sense you're not fully on board with this. Magda eased back in the recliner, almost seemed to shrink into it. These stone walls been my whole world for a while, she said. The idea of going out with Link again, even as a ghost of sorts, has me worried about having another flashback. Her eyes snapped up, bore into him. How did you know that, Billy? He shrugged. I saw what happened to you in that fight against the Rolling Outlaws. My guess is you remembered something really, really bad. During that brawl, Magda had come out like a pajama-wearing hurricane, had put 2 grown men down in the blink of an eye. Then, she'd seized up, had fallen into a fetal position. She'd had the battle won, yet her own mind had stopped her from finishing the job. I ain't no shrink, Billy said. But is this related to the Vestinian thing, when you got all hurt? Magda's fingers drifted to the 3 ragged, parallel scars running down the side of her face. I don't want to talk about it, she said. But she did. Whether she knew it or not, she did. Billy could sense it. Think of it this way, he said. If I do well in my training, I'll be part of this bounty hunting operation, right? I deserve to know more about the people I'm working with. You guys are putting your asses on the line because Vestinian is after me. You and I have a common enemy. I should know more about him, and I should know more about what he did to you. Magda's eyebrows rose. That's a smooth way to phrase it. That's a smooth way to phrase it, Lil B. He nodded. I have my moments. She reached into her pajamas pocket, pulled out a Ziploc bag of weed. She set it on her lap. I guess we brought it on ourselves, she said. Vestinian is a bad dude, a murderer, a slaver. He's got fingers in many pies. He's also a shadow, real hard to find. Link and I wanted to bring him down, make a bigger name for ourselves. Just you two? What about the rest of the Bastion? Vestinian, he's like some secret mafia don, Magda said. He's a puppet master. There's no direct connection between him and any of the horrible things he's behind. He wasn't on Bastion's list of targets. We figured it was better to ask forgiveness than permission. Forgiveness for what, exactly? Magda pulled some weed out of the bag, slowly packed the bong's bowl. We kill monsters, she said. All shapes and sizes. Vestinian is a monster. You do the math. Billy felt naive for even asking the question. We were digging pretty hard, Magda said. All off the clock, not on Bastion time. We found out he had a place in Cordis, a castle. We went after him. Her fingers stopped packing the bowl. She didn't move. Somehow he found out we were coming, she said. Looking back, he played us like fools. Lots of rooms in that castle. We barreled in like idiots, thinking we were all that in a bag of chips. He had Skultian guards. Skultian? Think of a gorilla, but dark blue with a thick neck as long as your arm and a face that's pretty much a heavy plate of meshwork-laced bone. They're deadly, but most Rixators can handle them one-on-one. How many were there? At least 20, Magda said. That's not one-on-one. And we're not most Rixators, Magda said. Lincoln, unleashed? It's a thing to behold. And I was no slouch myself, at least back then. We killed a dozen Skultians. Real stand-up fight. Vestinian threw meshwork at us, but we handled it. We didn't know he was playing himself way weaker than he actually is. He slipped through a secret door and he ran. She fished a lighter out of her pocket, went to light the bong, then stopped. I probably shouldn't get high before Link starts hunting. She stared at the lighter, at the trembling hand holding it. Tell me the rest, Billy said. Magda put the lighter back in her pajamas pocket. It took her 3 tries. Link went after Vestinian, she said. I remember he told me, finish these bitches, and he just took off. Now, I told him not to go, that we had to stay together, but you know what? She laughed, a sound devoid of humor, a sound of regret. I told him the same thing dozens of times over our years together, and it was never a problem. During any hostile situation, Bastion partners are supposed to stay side by side. Even though they drill that into our heads all through training, Link would take off on his own. Both of us were so good at what we did, though, that was never a problem. She touched her scars again. Until it was a problem, Billy said. Right? Vestinian, he set you up? Magda made that gut punch of a laugh again. Yeah, it was a setup, she said. Link took off. And as soon as he did, 6 more Skultians came out of another secret door. Now, that wasn't necessarily a problem for me, mind you. Back then, I could handle my business. But Vestinian, he didn't send them to take me out. He sent them to slow me down, to create more distance between me and Link. She set the bong on the floor next to the chair. Dragon hopped off the couch and sniffed it. Vestinian led Link away, lost him, then circled back, Magda said. He hit me with a meshwork rope that bound me. She shrugged. Not the first time I faced something like that. Always got out of them before. Would have got out of that one, except that rope was timed, just like the extra Skultians were. Before I could slip free, his Zumatakin, big old clawed motherfucker with skin like iron, came out of nowhere and knocked my ass flat. Those things are strong. Strong like I never felt before. I was out for a bit, but it didn't kill me. Bestinian had me bound tight. Then the Umatakan started cutting me. She spoke so quietly, was so matter-of-fact about it. Yet Billy knew, inherently, she hadn't told this story in a long time, if ever. Trouble? Damn. Okay.
I don't know if there's anything you can turn off or simplify.
Looks like we got some glitches going, ladies and gentlemen. Let me take a break here and take a look. Well, yeah, I can see it on Restream.
Is it?
It's telling me, we're doing technical shit now, ladies and gentlemen. It's telling me I've got an excellent connection.
I wonder if it's anything like, should we choose not this or choose not, like, is something like that an idea?
Bear with us for a couple minutes. Go to settings, 2-second keyframe interval, 30 frames per second. Bitrate's good. Everything is shown as excellent.
And I'm just like you, not.
Yeah, I know.
You turned off.
I turned that off, yeah. My computer's actually shut down. Well, all right. Everybody's having trouble? Yeah, it's getting a bit stuttery. Sorry about that. I am in analytics. I gotta admit, I don't know what to do at this point. Average viewers appears to be pretty slow. So if you can hear me, I don't know if this is a CPU problem. We have a really good crowd on tonight. That could be part of the issue. Going to take a look at OBS software, stream, output. Bit rate is 2300. Yep, just hang out in the chat room one more second. Hey, we'll talk to you guys in the chat room while I try and figure this out. Oop, that did not work for shit. What the hell is that all about? Oh, boy, that's all kinds of stuck, isn't it? That sucks. Sean, A is on the same Wi-Fi, but we've only got one computer on the Wi-Fi. I'll type that in. Actually, you know what, Sean? That's a great idea. Let's take a look at this. Let me go to... We go to settings. Just bear with me. This is how sausage gets made, y'all. Let's go to network. Wi-Fi. We're going to turn off Wi-Fi. All right. Yeah, it's very choppy, everybody. We're taking a look at it right now. Fair. Okay. Tons of problems. Tons of problems. All right. Take a look at, go back to system settings. We got to turn... Obviously, clearly got to turn Wi-Fi back on. Sorry, guys. We'll have to get to work on this and figure it out. Okay. Max headroom. That's not a thing that you want to see ever. Bitrate is extraordinary, 6,800. You guys may have to wait until Sunday. I'll get this recorded. I will put it in the feed because it looks like it's a little bit choppy, but it's starting to come back maybe. I'm watching myself. We have a 7-second delay between what I see and then what you guys see. So I'm checking that out right now. Smoother now. Everybody having... Okay, let's see. Do you guys want me to continue with the episode? Or should we switch off something? Now it seems good? Who knew? Crazy. Smooth out a bit. All right. Real quick in the chat room, were you able to hear the story or do I need to go back? Let's see what you guys think. Makes no sense. It's crazy. Video is now smooth. All right, we're going to jump right in. Let's go. More smooth and choppy. Very strange. We will try to get to the bottom of this, but for the rest of your entertainment purposes, we will continue with the story as is. And I recorded that whole goddamn thing. Shit. Whatever it takes. Okay, here we go. Let's give it a shot. I'll keep a loose eye. You know what? I won't watch chat, but A will come up and starts to get choppy again. Here we go. Let's go back to it. Let's get into it. Ready? And rocking. She spoke so quietly, was so matter-of-fact about it, yet Billy knew inherently she hadn't told the story in a long time, if ever. Speaking the words took a visible toll on her. Claws cut up my legs, my arms, then my face, Magda said. I don't know how long it lasted. Maybe an hour, maybe 2. I couldn't move. I was helpless. Billy's heart broke for her. The deadness in her eyes. The sag of her shoulders. If Link hadn't gone off on his own, you think Vestinian and the Umatakan could have snagged you away? Magda's lips pressed together, became a pursed dot. No, she said finally. 1 Rixator is bad news. 2 working together is way more than the sum of the parts. And if one of those 2 is Lincoln Franks? She shrugged. Would Vestinian have won anyway? It's hard to tell. Maybe it was hard to tell, but it wasn't hard to know. Not for Magda. The look on her face expressed that better than words ever could. Lincoln had gone off half-cocked, leaving her exposed, and because of that, Magda's life had changed forever. So how come you live with Link? Billy asked. How come you don't hate him for that? Magda considered the question. Perhaps she didn't know the answer. The ear cuff vibrated in her hand. Time to go to work, she said. Would you mind making me a panini? Billy stood. Sure, Mags. What kind? Garlic parmesan on Dutch crunch. She put the cuff on her ear. Link, can you hear me? It was no small irony in the way There was no small irony in the way Lincoln spread his between cloak out across canoe and water alike. The cloak's dark gray coloring and ragged, irregular surface had been invented by Xhosa warrior Rixator named Intaka back in the 9th century A.D. Intaka had been inspired by watching the hunting techniques of black herons. The birds stand in the water and curl their wings around them like an umbrella. An umbrella that hides their raptor shape and blocks out the sun, making a shady spot for the fish that herons eat to hide in. With the cloak obscuring the outline of the canoe and him paddling away inside it, Lincoln was little more than a dark gray shadow sliding across the moonlit swamp's duckweed-thick surface. This is wild, Link, Magda said. I can see what you see. Those words were more in his brain than in his ears, yet there was no mistaking her voice. Hearing Magda during a hunt was both thrilling and strange. Thrilling because it had been so long since their glory days of whooping ass and taking names together, and strange because, well, because it had been so long since their glory days of whooping ass and taking names together. Those days came to a harsh end when they'd ran afoul of Vestinian, something that was undoubtedly on Magda's mind as well. Her condition, her injuries, her agoraphobia, They were all Lincoln's fault. He bore that burden every minute of every day. But there was no point in bringing that up now. He'd said his apologies already. Thousands of them. Those apologies were, and always would be, worthless. Empty words didn't send you back in time to correct your mistakes. "That sound," Magda said. "Are those frogs?" Lincoln had already tuned out the swamp's persistent ambient drone. Only significant changes in that sound, or new sounds altogether, would catch his attention. "Yeah, I think it's frogs," he said. "And maybe some cicadas and shit. So, you can also hear what I hear?" He leaned onto one cheek and let out a short fart. "Did you hear that gator croak?" "The fuck, Link? How old are you? 7? Oh my God, I can smell it. I can smell the swamp too, but it's perfume compared to your ass. This connection thing is nasty. What did you have for lunch? Rotten possum guts stuffed with more rotten possum guts?" Lincoln laughed silently as he paddled. Sight, sound, and smell. He had to hand it to Ariella. This connection was the real reason she'd wanted him to kill the Lich in Lynchburg. She'd held that info back from him, but he understood why. If she told him the Lich's ear cuff could provide this level of connection with Magda, then couldn't deliver on that promise, it would have been disappointing to say the least. Lincoln missed working with Magda. He missed Magda, or at least the person she used to be. Lincoln and Shitbird had transited through Cordis to reach a mop closet of St. Martin de Tours Catholic Church in St. Martinsville, Louisiana. The Loa Bounty, like the Lich in Lynchburg, was another contract brokered by Lucius Palminteri, who had been waiting in the church for Link's arrival. Palminteri had driven Lincoln to the Atchafalaya Basin. Sorry, I forgot to check how to pronounce this. Palminteri had driven Lincoln to the Atchafalaya Basin, 1,000,000 acres of swamp, much of it so primitive it looked like mankind had yet to appear on the continent. Once there, Palminteri had driven a swamp boat out into the endless expanse, finally dropping a canoe into the water, handing Lincoln an oar and saying, "Go that way until you find it." The "it" in this instance was, supposedly, where the Loa lived. A dilapidated cabin out in the middle of all this nothing. Palminteri had brokered the bounty with locals who'd lost loved ones, who'd assumed their deaths or absences were the work of the old witch that lived in the swamp. Palminteri babbled on about the Loa, but Lincoln hadn't really paid attention. There was too much on his mind. The excitement of having Magda with him again, his frustration at letting Teddy slip away, the thrill of ordering his new bike with Delilah. And it wasn't like Lincoln needed to listen. He'd killed Loas before. "You've been paddling for a while," Magda said. "Shitbird seen anything yet?" "Not yet." In places, the stinky swamp looked like flat ground, ready to drag down the unwary. The haze of Cimarron let Lincoln see almost as well as if it was daytime. He saw occasional gators slicing through the duckweed, visible only from the thin, black streaks of clear water they left in their wake. 2 images suddenly popped into his mind. The first was 4 bags of oyster crackers. The second, an orange glow. A rectangular orange glow. "Shit, he sees a cabin," Lincoln said. Quietly, steadily, he closed the distance, slipping into a Rixator's zen-like hunting state where time didn't matter, where repetitive motions, like rowing, were relegated to some distant, autonomous part of his soul. Soon, through the sparse trees, he saw the ratty old cabin with his own eyes, about 200 meters out. A single story, with a peaked roof, it stood atop vine-covered pylons that kept it a good 10 feet above the water. An oil lamp glow lit the place from within, made the windows on either side of the door look like the rectangular eyes of some water demon. "This is straight out of one of your awful horror movies," Lincoln whispered. "Yeah, that's some Evil Dead shit right there," Magda said. Magda didn't have to whisper, because she wasn't there, in visual distance of Swamp Witch's voodoo palace. "Link, you see any snakes in the water or around the cabin's poles?" He saw neither. "I'm sure there's snakes everywhere," he said. "I'm not interested in the fauna right now." "Big snakes, Link. You didn't read the binder?" "I skimmed it," he said. "I didn't see anything about snakes." "It was in the second paragraph, you ADD-addled dumbass." The second paragraph? Maybe he needed to take a little bit more time with these bounties. At any rate, it was really Palminteri's fault. He should have told Lincoln. Although, come to think of it, maybe Palminteri had mentioned snakes. Maybe a couple of times. "I don't care," Lincoln said. "I want to get this over with. I'm going in." "Link, wait," Magda said. "Don't rush forward." "I got this." Lincoln dug his paddle blade into the water. "Easy peasy. I'll just—" "When I tell you to wait, you fucking wait!" Lincoln froze. The anger in Magda's voice. She hadn't spoken to him like that. She hadn't spoken to him like that in years. Come to think of it, maybe she had never spoken to him like that before. So raw, so full of pain and rage. He slowed the canoe, brought it to a full stop. I'll chill here for a bit," he said. A pause. Lincoln waited. Had the connection broken? Mags, just how big are we talking?" "World record big," Magda said, her voice back to normal, or at least a semblance of normal. "Some sightings say around 30 feet long. That's probably 600 pounds of snake, and their hide is meshwork. You ain't lopping off their heads with one swing of bastard maker." Well, that was only a theory, right? How could Lincoln know until he tried? Far off to his right, a ripple of movement across the weed-covered black water. A huge ripple. Lincoln sat very still. He mentally signaled to Shitbird to give him a top-down view. Seconds later, he had it. Blazing hells. That was one big fucking snake. It undulated through the water, weaving toward the cabin. 30 feet? Hard to tell in the water. Maybe it was even longer. A black streak as wide as his arm was long. If he hadn't heeded Magda's warning, if he'd continued on, that snake could have come up behind him, could have surprised him, wrapped him up, and dragged him to the bottom. The beast reached the cabin, wrapping its body around one wooden pillar, then another, then another. 30-plus feet of dark reptile curled around 3 posts at once, strands of duckweed clinging to its scales. "I see the snake," Link whispered. "I see what you see, remember? But I don't need to see shit to know you're considering another one of your macho-ass duels. Mano a mano with the Loa, right?" Lincoln wanted to go in and evaluate the Loa for himself. Smell her aura and find out if she had done the things the locals had accused her of. If so, he would give her a chance to surrender. That was the honorable thing to do. If she wanted to fight and die, he'd humor her. If she did surrender, he could take her in, collect the reward, then turn her over to the Bastion and let them decide her fate. I haven't decided yet, Lincoln said. I'm sending Shitbird in for a peek. He closed his eyes, willed the raven, who identified as a crow, to zip past the cabin for a look-see. Somewhere, up in the darkness, Shitbird dove, then leveled out and silently glided past the cabin. His speed took him past windows for only a fraction of a second, but in that fraction, he saw inside and passed the visual to Lincoln. Lincoln's blood chilled. He felt as cold as the swamp water around him. The Loa wasn't alone. 3 people in the cabin with her. 2 adults, 1 child, all skinned. Their bodies hung upside down, dangled above a ratty old wooden table covered with the tools of dark meshwork. Glass jars containing eyes, a heart, maybe a liver, a smoking brazier, bloody knives, a gore-covered stone mortar and pestle, tacky blood and bits of cartilage and bone stuck to the handle, and a skinned human hand. The man's hand? The woman's? Hard to tell. The 2 rats chewing away at the exposed muscle didn't seem to care one way or another. The victims' bodies, twisted and broken, as if they'd been crushed before the Loa cut away their skin. That big snake. It had coiled around them, squeezing so tight, bones snapped, shattered. Shitbird showed me victims in a cabin, Lincoln said. 3 of them. Maybe a family. She's harvesting them, Mags. Looks like eating them, too. Sometimes, in the freelance world of bounty hunting, with the privilege of taking contracts or passing them by, Lincoln forgot that real evil existed, that darkness existed, and that in that darkness lurked monsters that preyed upon the weak. Sometimes, Lincoln forgot why he'd become a Rixator in the first place, to destroy such evil wherever he found it. We are the weapons that slay the wicked, Link, Magda said. Sometimes, Lincoln forgot. But sometimes, Mags reminded him. This is all we need, he said. The last time he'd heard that statement of sacrifice while hunting them had been when he and Mags tried to bring down Vestinian. This is all we want, Lincoln said. It felt good to say the words. It felt even better to have someone to say them with. This is all we are, Magda said, her voice as cold as Lincoln felt. Forget bringing that bitch in alive. Use the ding-dong big schlong. Lincoln reached into his cloak. Without taking his eyes off the cabin, he pulled the 4-foot-long Barrett M80 rifle from within the endless folds. The canoe bobbed slightly, offering no fixed position. He didn't care. He pulled the stock to his shoulder. Through the scope, the distant window and its warm orange glow looked as large as life. His angle let him see the biggest corpse, dangling upside down above the table. Flies buzzed across exposed muscle, swarmed in the cavity where the man's stomach and intestines had once been. Dark shadows filled empty eye sockets. His skinless smile blazed. Lincoln slowed his breathing. He calmed himself, timed the canoe's oh-so-slight movements, adjusted for them. The Loa walked past the window, but on the table's far side, more a dark shape than a human form. Lincoln waited. Through the scope, he saw the flies buzz and swarm. Movement. The Loa was coming around the table. She'd walk between it and the window. Link let out a slow breath, heard the air sliding from his lungs. The Loa walked into view, the right side of her face caught in the crosshairs. Lincoln fired. The .50 caliber round closed the 2,800-foot distance in a quarter of a second. He had aimed for the temple, but hadn't timed the canoe's movement quite right. The bullet hit the woman's jaw, just below her ear, shattering her mandible. As the bullet traveled through her head, exiting at her left cheekbone, it kicked out an expanding cavitation wave that pushed her brain against her skull with so much force the bone fractured from the inside in a dozen places. A part of her skull popped open, gray matter pushing out like a burst zit. The Loa dropped, hitting the cabin floor several seconds before the mist of her blood and brain settled around her. The giant snake slid away from the wooden posts and closed in on Lincoln with harrowing speed. Lincoln slipped. Lincoln slid the Barrett into his cloak. He drew his hatchet, bastard maker. Time to put that theory to the test. That was Slay episode 49. We will be back with Slay episode 50. Crazy shit goes down, and you find out what happens with Link and that big old snake. Later. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Stopping recording. It's taking a little while to get all the particulars down. Oh, it's because it's such a goddamn big episode, because I chit-chatted with you guys for like 20 minutes. Well, you know what? Technical problems continue to be an issue. We've had that on this show for, 4 years now? When did we start doing this? Baby, come on up. And, it's the way things go, ladies and gentlemen. It's the way things go. So let's see if we got that recording. Recording is done, son. All right. That would have been probably a much better episode if my technical stuff hadn't crapped out. Good. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking with. Still got a big old crowd today. That's wonderful. Now we're going to get into some really cool stuff. Once my baby gets upstairs, we're going to be talking about the RR-36, the Rogolinsky Raider Combat Rifle, a wonderful piece of kit that is being developed by a couple of super cool people. But while we're waiting for A to come on upstairs, I don't know what's going on. Hello, doll.
Hi, Tiny.
Thanks for managing all the business. There you go. And you got your headphones. Yep. Okay. There you go. Thanks, baby girl. Cheers, all you bitches.
You did well. That was a rough ride.
Yeah, I'm doing, you guys, I'm going through so much personal growth right now. I'm trying to manage my anger, and I'm trying to be a better person and not beat myself up for things that are beyond my control, because I'm good enough and I'm smart. Yes.
No movement.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's go to main. Let's go to ACAM. Oop, 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 oop. There we are. Ladies and gentlemen, Lolan, let me get you unmuted here.
Hey,
look who is in the house.
Look at you with my headphones. Come on now.
The light of my life has entered the room, ladies and gentlemen. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. I dig this chick. Chick is awesome.
Hot in here.
So hot. That's because I'm all sizzly. You want me to get you a little air?
Yes, and also
Can you not hear yourself?
hands. Yeah.
All
I mean,
right.
not these. These.
There we go. How's that, sweetie?
There we go. That's
Much
what
better.
I wanted. Yeah.
Much better. Excellent. All right.
Wow, it's so hot in this room.
So A likes to call me her frog prince because apparently the heat gradually picks up in here. Come a little closer to me so I get us both on camera.
You have heard that thing, right? Where you could put a frog in a pot of water, not turned on a stove, And then you could turn it on and start heating it up, and eventually that would be boiling, but the frog was in there before and it doesn't jump out. I don't know if that's real. I just know that that's
It's because the frog is from Krypton and is
know
all
it's
like,
Scott.
suck it! Suck it. I actually randomly was, I was preparing for the show, so let me let you guys in a little secret. As gentlemen get older and their hair leaves the top of their head, fuck you, Rob Otto, as the hair leaves the top of their head.
Oh, mate. Rob's hair is gorgeous.
Sometimes that hair goes to other places like the nose and the ears. So I'm sitting there before the show, because I fucking love you people, checking my ear hair for fuck's sake. And I think to myself, what happens when Clark Kent hits middle age and gets ear hair? How do you cut ear hair if you're Superman? How does Superman cut his hair? I'm pretty sure that many people have analyzed this above and beyond me. But the motherfucker is bulletproof. His hair is always perfect. How does fucking Superman cut his hair without having some Krypton shit to cut his fucking hair? And he doesn't have any Krypton shit. It's bullshit.
Hang on. It's very tightened down. You guys can hear me, I hope. So we had that. So if you guys don't know, Scott's cousin Merciless had a show last weekend on Friday night. And as Super Weapon was setting up, I actually had this exact conversation.
No. What?
About Superman.
No
yeah.
way you did not.
Yeah, I did.
That's crazy.
And it's, oh, wait, hang on. I got to fix this.
Yeah.
It'll be noisy.
Don't spill no shit.
Yeah.
Wait, so you randomly had the same fucking conversation with someone? That's nuts.
Yes. And it was several things. It was like, you can't be bulletproof if XYZ. Like if, and what it was if Superman's glasses, if Clark Kent's glasses prescription changes in his 50s to be progressive, that's some bullshit. It shouldn't happen, right? And my whole thing, my entire life is, listen. Listen. If you cannot inject Superman with an IV, that mofo should not have chickenpox scars.
Does he have chickenpox? Oh, because the actors do.
Every single one of them have chickenpox scars.
I forgive that. There's only so much you can do, but seriously.
CGI that shit. That's easy.
So what we have established, ladies and gentlemen, is that Clark Kent has just crazy bushy ear hair and just cluster that shit just fucking coming out his nose. It's a fact. It's a fact, son.
Listen, here's the thing. I think Superman, we should watch Superman.
Oh, fucking Rob Otto, of course.
A Persian barber.
Read what Rob wrote, because Rob literally knows.
Rob, of course, knows everything about comics and superheroes. And he says Superman uses a mirror and his heat vision to cut his hair. Seriously. And I don't disagree. I know. That's how he does. That's how he has that. Hang tight. Has that perfect coif to do.
Can we talk about it?
I would like to know how Superman manages the nose hair that grows out from the side of his nose, or the ear hair that grows out from the top of his ear. Because I think if he tries to laser that off with his heat vision, he's going to lobotomize himself.
I have another very important point we got to talk about real quick. I'm just going to throw this. Sorry. I'm going to throw this thought out there.
You never changed your chair. Look at you.
Oh, I didn't. I'm going to throw this thought out there for you guys. You guys ready? Here we go. Here's the thought. Obviously, it's extraordinarily important for Western culture to understand how Superman cuts his goddamn hair. But while we're on it,
or has chickenpox.
How does Spider-Man snap off? Peter Parker's like, what, 18 in that shit?
15.
He's fucking just pounding that shit all day. He's beating it like it's a fucking redheaded stepchild. Because he's got super sticky fingers. So he does like that, then he can't let go of his own peen. He's stuck forever. Oh, that's right. No, he does this. That's the web shooter. He sticks to like.
Well, but if he's like a spider and it's the little cilia that's on his hand pads,
you are correct,
those
Steve
are
Ricky
activated.
Bird. All right, fine. So all I can know is if Peter Parker does some edibles and then masturbates, everything can go totally wrong. All right, we're going to do a shot from our sponsor here in a second. But wait a minute, babe. Babe, I got to tell you something.
Oh, Lord.
This episode is sponsored by, who's this again? What do we got?
Factor?
This is sponsored by Factor, and we'll tell you more about that in a second. But the real sponsor of this show, ladies and gentlemen, lean out to the side. The sponsor of this show, no, you got to be on camera, babe.
Oh, you said lean off to the side.
Just get to the side, like this. Big Tiny. This episode is sponsored by my nephew, Big Tiny. Look at him. Look at him at the beach. Look at him at the beach, just chilling like a boss. Like Elon Musk wishes he looked this fucking cool.
I
You
have
never
it
looked this cool,
on
Elon.
good authority.
Never looked this cool. That's my boy right there. Look at him. So
that
great.
our sweet, beautiful grand nephew, in this photo on this day, tasted sand.
Big Tiny.
Ate a lot of sand.
Big T, what's up, Big Tiny? All right, that's our Big Tiny.
Yeah, he's the sweetest.
He's great. All right, so we're going to have that in a second. Let's go over. We're coming up on the RR36 information. We got to start motoring. Schedule is a stink. February 25th, Slave 48 went live in the feed. Saturday, March 2nd, of course, is going to be the Junkie Meetup. It's coming up in just a couple of days.
You have it there as March 3rd on the screen, but I think it's March 2nd.
Whatever the first Saturday?
First Saturday of
First
March,
Saturday in
which
March.
I believe is the 2nd. It's this Saturday.
This coming Saturday is the Junkies
I'll see
Party.
you there.
Steve Rickyberg does yeoman's work, hanging out for 7 hours to facilitate junkies all across the globe coming together to just shoot the shit and hang out and do their own thing.
Scott Pond.
Scott Pound knows.
King among men, nice to see you. Look at you. Go
figures you have to drive 18
vacationing
hours,
and
missus. All right.
and joining this.
And then coming up March 3rd, which is Sunday, the one you just heard, edited and tidied up quite nice, will be in the feed. That's Slay 49. Wednesday, March 6th, we'll be back with a live read of Slay episode 50. And April 1st, Slay season 1. We're closing in on this. Can't guarantee it yet. Slay season 1, audiobook narrated by moi, and ebook should be out Sigler Ascension Day 2024. We'll do our best. We're closing in.
Quite a lot of you have emailed or posted on Facebook that there is a pre-order available for Slay Book
don't
I.
pre-order. Wait, you can?
You can pre-order as you like. So I would like to pull back the curtain a tiny bit and let you know we are actively in copy edit with Slay Book I. We have a terrific copy editor. She does lots of sci-fi and fantasy for many books you have read. We've hired her. She is actively doing a copy edit. We have that up there. We will replace the file. You can only do a pre-order if you have a file up there. We've done that. We're going to replace it with her edited file. And we are actively working to get the audio uploaded to Audible. They publish that they have a 2-week turnaround with their approval. We're trying to give them a month.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if that will work.
We'll figure it out.
The ebook will be available on April 1st.
We will have more information on that in the coming weeks. Siglerpedia is still down. We are working on that. We're trying to get to a new vendor. I don't know if you guys use it. I use it constantly. I'm using it a lot more as I come up with stuff and write it. I put it in Siglerpedia so you guys can track all of that stuff. We'll get that fixed. Let's go to, ladies and gentlemen. Now we got to get to our main stuff. We're a little bit pressed for time here. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's go over let's get to the good stuff, as A loves to say. Let's see. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, CRYPT Book II is rolling. We are now, as of today, 16,000 words into the book. I didn't quite meet today's word count, but it's an aggressive word count. We are shooting for 16,000 words.
It's great.
We are shooting for the first draft of the CRYPT Book II by April 14th. I was shooting for April 1st, but that was crazy. You know what? That was the fucking liquor talking. It was the liquor talk. It was the sterno talking.
And then you went to
I had some sterno. Dry brewery.
And then you figured out that was no good.
That was no good. All right, so you've got that info. I will keep you informed. We've got many weeks to go on that. And then, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. We've been making these great props for the crypt. We've got a Lego Octhera created by Kelly McCardle. We've got the actual Keeling Lego model created by Chris Grawl. We're going to talk about him in a second.
And
several. Don't.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I said nothing.
And then we also have Keeling hats in the work, crew hats. We've got shirts. We got all kinds of cool shit. Trying to get ready for when the series blows the fuck up. And right now, we have to talk about the RR36 model, which has been created by junkie Zach Parrish. Apparently, he's been listening to me since he's been a teenager, which I don't like to talk about, but it's a fact. And, of course, Mr. Happy himself, Chris Grawl, the author of Trigger Guard, A Writer's Guide to Firearms, which is due out in the near future, but we don't have a publication date. I just wanted to let you know, this is called validation of authenticity. when you're giving a presentation. You let bitches know why what you're saying is important and they should fucking listen. This is why. Because we got Chris Grell's book right here. All right. So let's get into this lovely, lovely shit. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to main first. Nope, we'll go right into it. Nope, got to be main. So if you have read the CRYPT Book I, and if you haven't, shame on you. You're a terrible human being.
Also, spoiler
You're
alert.
terrible. This is not a spoiler. There is a group of soldiers in CRYPT Book I called Raiders. Raiders' primary job is to defend a ship against boarders, a spaceship against boarders, or to board another ship. And the tertiary mission objective of Raiders is to go down to planets for very particular spec ops operations and provide heavy support for anybody who's going down. Support for anybody who's going down. Yeah. But they have a weapon because we are in space and their primary operating theater is in the void where there is no atmosphere. And if there is an action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. They fire a weapon, which we're going to show a video for what this weapon is based on. This weapon has to be a neutral thrust weapon. So when they fire something, they don't just spin uncontrollably or be forced away from the theater of combat. So let's get into junkies. So I wrote about this and Chris Grell came up with the very first iteration.
Which I believe you
This
can
is
see.
the original, Chris's original design for the 0G recoilless rifle.
Is this visible in Trigger Guard or no?
No, I don't think he's got it in Trigger Guard. I don't know.
I think he talks about it. Maybe.
Okay. But
Chris,
we
you're
have,
here.
here's the first thing. This was already the product of, I'm going to guess 20 plus iterations. Chris and I talking back and forth and him trying to figure out like, we want something super fucking cool, visually cool. So when you guys see it in a movie or see it in TV, you're like, I got to have that shit. It's so cool. Much heavily inspired by the pulse rifle from Aliens, which is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So a lot of sci-fi properties have their super cool weapons. This was the start of our super cool weapon. But then along came a junkie named Zach Parrish, who does all kinds of 3D modeling. His wife is a cosplayer. He makes all these weapons and costumes for her. We're going to shine him up a little later. He and Chris will be guests on the show at some point, so I can't get into it for now. But just know Zach is the bomb. And then Zach starts to go into Zach and Chris primarily, and I as the impartial third-party observer and the designator of that's fucking cool. What?
And Chris is confirming. He talks about this theoretical weapon in Trigger Guard.
Perfect. I owe Chris an intro for that. I got to get to that. So now we're starting into the cool shit. At this point, I saw this design, and I would say basically at this point, I lost any control over the project. The project starts to go nuts. Chris is a Special Forces veteran, has an enormous amount of experience training SWAT teams, actually deployed multiple times. The guy's got a crazy pedigree. Of course, thank you for your service, Chris. It's great, but he's been helping me for 15 years now or something like that.
I mean, I met him in 2008 on the Rookie Tailgate Tour, 2009 on the Rookie Tailgate Tour, so it had been at least that long. That's when I met Scott.
Ross the boss asks, what is the second book called? Don't have a name for it yet. And I'm not going to be a dick like I am with a GFL. As soon as I figure out the name, I'm going to let you guys know. So this starts, and then Zach starts to go to work. And Zach starts to design.
Look at this, though. Look at this.
Design. Now, the point, we're going to show the video at the end of this. We'll make this as quick as I can because we're running past our time. The point of this weapon is, this is a weapon a soldier in space can hold and shoot without providing any significant torque, any significant rotation, any significant backward thrust that's going to drive that person in the theater. So that barrel out the back is what we're calling the back blast. The back blast vent. Yes, go ahead, babe.
I'm just saying, you guys know this is in space. So any motion creates an equal and an opposite reaction to that. And this gun is meant to be able to be stable for a combatant in space.
If you go back, read Heinlein or Asimov, they've got these wonderful short stories with astronauts screwed, like literally before we knew there wasn't anything on Mars. Astronauts screwed, like shooting a pistol to drive them to provide thrust. So they carry a pistol not for defense, but as an
As
emergency
a propulsion device.
Very good. Oh, you're sexy. Emergency propulsion device. So now Zach,
So let's not put too fine. Well, let's put a fine point on this. What Zach and Chris are doing are creating a weapon that can be used like a traditional gun in atmosphere without the propulsion with a mitigating propulsion mechanism, so that they can actively stay where they are in that battle in a 360-degree 3D and have less recoil.
Rob suggests CRYPT II backblast. No, this is CRYPT II is diving much more firmly into horror. Ross the Boss asks, how did you come up with the Lash versus Tash armor concepts? The Tash armor is what the heavy weapons Marines wear, Raiders wear when they go into battle. Lash is more of a lightweight rig. The T stands for tactical and the L stands for light. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but let's get back into this.
That this is what people use who are not your characters?
No, we'll get into that side. We got a little bit of time. So now this starts to, and then here is the first 3D render of Zach Parrish has got some fucking skill. Mm-hmm. And Chris Grawl has some fucking knowledge. And Scott is busy fucking writing shit. So these motherfuckers are tearing it up. Look how fucking cool this is. And this is 4 gens back. I'm not going to show you guys all the wonderful shit. Shut up, Rob. It's not, CRYPT II Ass Blast is not happening. Well, Ross, I'll get to your question in a second. Be ready to remind me. But look how effing cool this is. So this weapon, like the crypt itself, like the Keeling itself, is starting to become its own visually unique thing, which as a author of sci-fi gives me a giant chub. It is a giant chub to know.
You legitimately shut Rob Otto down and then said it gives you a giant chub.
It gives me a giant chub. And now watch this. So then here I am like, okay, that's cool, but there are certain parameters that need to be met if this weapon is going to operate as I portrayed it in the book. So Zach and Chris are like, why don't we just do a quick 3D model and see how that shit looks on a fucking actual soldier?
What? I haven't seen this.
That's right, baby. I keep secrets. So
I'm
this
here for these secrets.
This was Zach's first render with, this is not the armor that the Raiders have, but he threw in a suit of armor. And to give you an idea, and if you look at the soldier on the right, I looked at that and there's a major part, one of the major features of the R36 is that it is clamped to the armor to free up hands and feet, full range of motion for the Raiders, because if they land on the hull of either a friendly or enemy vessel, they have to try to get 3 points of contact and get their center of gravity as low as possible. They have fake grab all over their armor, same shit that lets people walk on a ship and operate in normal gravity. They have to get on a hull, get low, because one of the things all ships do when boarders show up is try to spin the ship, torque the ship, do anything crazy to try and throw people off like fleas, just fling them off. So they have to get low. So they can't be sitting there on their feet holding a weapon because their center of gravity is too high. They'll get flung off. So this is a huge point of design. And I said, looking at this guy on the right, that's too big. If he clamps that to his chest, he or she clamps that to their chest, they are not going to have full range of motion. They frankly can't even see to the right. So it was a problem. So the boys went to work. And now they modified to this is V2. So they start to modify it. And we're going to show the video in a second. Stay with us, gun nuts. Stay with us. This gets to a point. And I say, great, let's see that on a bitch. And there we go. So now there's two versions of the gun. The one on the left, I think, is the V1. The one on the right is the V2. Now we're starting to get more to the compact format, which would be required to clamp it, mag clamp it to your chest, have arms free, be able to do other shit. Work doors, plant demolitions, restrain captives, all the other shit. Jazz hands. It's still not where we need to go. And you guys don't get to see where it is now because I got to stretch it out for ratings.
But can I go back and see
the
CRYPT 2.0 suggestions?
You talking about in the chat, babe?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to chat.
Done.
We're not done. Let's go to...
Yeah, let's finish.
Let's finish this up. So, Junkie, so now this, for those of you who might be, we're now calling them gunbeards. So Chris and Zach and I coined the term gunbeards. That's if you're a neckbeard. It's like, I don't think that's how firearms work. I've fired a shotgun once, and you know what? That's not how things work at all. We're calling them
5 guns.
We're calling them the gunbeards. Not to dismiss the gunbeards, but to say there are a lot of people who read my work who know an enormous amount of information about firearms and weapons in general. We want to be respectful to those people, and yet at the same time, I'm telling a story. Shit's got to sound cool. Shit's got to read cool. Shit's got to fucking look cool. So to handle the gunbeards, right off the bat, when I posted that early design on Facebook, people were like, no, I hope you know something about real weapons. Do you actually know firearms? I'm like, bitch, have you read my work? Fuck off. I got fucking consultants and shit.
And have you? Name 5 guns you own.
Okay, here we go. Well, actually, these people probably have 20 guns.
No, they
so
have
now we're
looked at
going to
20
get
guns.
into, here is what this weapon is largely based on. This is the Gustav M4 recoilless rifle. Chris, correct me if I have that wrong. So this is a large-scale version of what the RR36 is. The point of a recoilless rifle is it lets you deliver large, cheap ordnance, bingo, without feeling all the recoil of a cannon.
And
because,
also not having.
Not what?
We didn't have that recoil in that photo.
No, there's, as you can see in this video, these are people actually operating in the Ukraine theater right now.
There doesn't seem
Watch
to be
when it goes.
recoil.
Bingo. Zero recoil. So that guy is delivering large ordnance because...
And even if he's trained... I'm sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
I was saying, even if he's trained to brace for impact, that in itself is useful, wonderful information about how to use that weapon.
Sean Watts in the chat, the CRYPT II electric boogaloo. Jesus Christ, I wish. I wish I could do that. The point of this weapon is it provides... Go back to main. It's providing zero thrust in any direction. It's a thrust neutral. You've got the counter mass coming out the back to negate the mass going forward, and the operator gets to stay relatively stationary. And then, of course, the Raider Tash armor has little micro thrusters that compensate, gyroscopically based micro thrusters that compensate and keep them focused where they actually are. So, in summary, the RR36 is based on recoilless rifle technology current. Fast forward 400 years, shit's going to be much doper and much sicker.
But currently used in theater.
Currently used. Now,
so that exists. That video is a real video, right?
Those are real weapons.
Okay, so I have a question.
Shoot.
If you know the answer, and if you don't, that's fine. Is there something physical that goes out the back? Or is it all just thrust?
It's the physical that comes up. Ross the boss, I got to get to that question because you're a fucking hero. You're fucking benefit to humanity. It's instead of pulling the gun to your shoulder, it's actually you pull the stock to your shoulder and the barrel extrudes the rear vent, the back thrust barrel extrudes over your shoulder, just like what we just saw. And so every time you fire, the counter mass goes out the back behind you.
It's literally physical counter mass.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
It's physical. It's physical
know how to
and
use
energy
that weapon.
countermass.
And also, if you don't know how to use that weapon, unfortunately for you, it might not be great.
No, actually, if you don't know how to use that weapon, it's like A and I have taken a bunch of firearms training. We've trained with Chris. You don't have to be smart to use a gun. You just need some basic information. Whether you're good at a gun or not, we won't count that. But the basics of point the narrow end at the enemy and pull the trigger is still an application here, except these are highly trained military operatives, the Raiders. They know how to fire this thing in all situations. It's compact enough for them to carry it into vessels, both human and alien, that have smaller corridors and passageways. So it serves a lot of purposes. Now, the Gustav you just saw, I don't know how big that round is. Chris, feel free to put it in the chat room. But I believe the RR36 is 20 millimeter. So is that right? No, the Gustav's shit. Chris, fill me in. Anyways, this is a very dangerous weapon that fires a large projectile at high velocities, brings an enormous amount of force to play, and can punch holes through most armor, like most turret armor. So we're doing that right now. And that was a lot of explanation for me to say, it's so fucking fun. It's so fucking fun. It's crazy. And here's the capper. Here's the capper. Zach Parrish is a 3D modeler. And all of his designs so far, he's been like, I can't make that part in a 3D printer. I would like to do this in a 3D printer. So long-term goal, after book 2 of the Crypt comes out, this will be a fucking weapon prop that you can buy and paint. It will not be cheap, but I will have one. I will have one. It'll be up on the wall. So it's fantastic.
Would you like to do a wellness shot?
Let's do a wellness shot. And Steve Rickenberg just posted in the chat room, recoilless rifle from Wikipedia. Yep. It's very, very good. So that is super fucking fun, you guys. This is the kind of shit I didn't realize I would get to do when I started writing, as a wee lad many, many years ago. But it's great, and we're very excited. Now we're going to close the show out with a wellness shot from our sponsor, and I did not write down the sponsor URL.
I can do it. It's Factor, and we have 2 options.
Is it Sigler 50?
I don't know.
Sigler what? Shit, forgot.
You look that up. I will tell you all you got. That's okay. You can go to
I'll figure it out.
website and look up Factor. Whatever it is, we're enjoying. I think it's Sigler 50. But we got this now. When you order Factor meals, it also sends you breakfast for life. If you're ordering other meals, it sends you like a little English muffin breakfast.
They're delicious. They're surprisingly
good. Burrito breakfast. They're very good.
Here we go.
And also
Here we go.
wellness shots. And we are not wellness shop people. Mostly
Pause. Head to factormeals.com/Sigler50 and use code Sigler50 to get 50% off. That is code Sigler50 at factormeals.com/Sigler50 to get 50% off. We've eaten these things, a bunch of them. I have yet to have a bad one. They're great.
We've eaten
They're like
all the meals.
TV dinners on fucking steroids for grown-ups.
But I will tell you guys, in our house, there's a weirdness, which is we don't do protein shakes. We don't do smoothies. We don't do fruit smoothies, yogurt smoothies, morning smoothies, whatever, because I'm allergic to mango and quite a lot of frozen, like you just do this before you go out on your exercise in the morning, has mango as the sugar. So we don't do anything in the blender that is not all the whole ingredients because I am severely allergic to
mango. Put the code in the chat room.
Both of these are...
Let's do it.
Both of these, you have to choose. Do you want lemon, apple?
I want it all. I want it all.
Well, you're going to do both.
Lemon, apple, and what's the other one?
Well,
last time we had these, there was like green grass stuff in it. I was not a fan.
Right, and these are both golden. They both have lemon. They both have ginger. They both have
just
apple.
give me one.
Well, we want to do the same thing. Do you want turmeric or black pepper?
I'm going to go with turmeric. We're doing turmeric, you guys. We're going to do a line of turmeric because I think turmeric comes from the Middle East. I don't know. And we want to support our
beautiful color,
beautiful people in the Middle East with turmeric. I don't know.
Yeah. All the people every day, all day.
All the people every day, all day. As long as you're not fucking killing people, we love you. Here we go.
All right.
Ready?
Let me double check one more time. You're not going to love this.
No, of course not. Factor! Boom. Cheers. Let's see how this... Here we go.
Oh, that was lovely. He's going to hate it. It was very bitey. It was very bitey.
I mean, it's not bad. My mouth isn't working.
Yeah. You don't like pepper.
You know what? Let's do a chaser. Here we go.
So Scott loves every hot pepper on
That's not
earth.
bad. We got to get to answer that question. We got to answer Ross the Boss, and we got to let these fucking people go because it's late.
Go ahead.
Ross the Boss. Let's go to chat room. Ross, you may have to retype your questions too far back. Ross, no, it was before. Ross wants to run a space D&D campaign using the crypt as a backdrop. So Ross is asking specific questions. Ross, also, in case you don't know, A is a D&D player. So if there's any kind of online game, reach out.
I played one campaign.
Reach out. So let me go back. Let me scroll through. Okay, you guys. All right. At this point, show's fucking done. Now we're goofing off. We're gonna go back. So if you want to tap out and say goodbye, that's fine. I'm gonna go back and try and find Ross's actual question. I'm very excited. I got so excited showing the fucking weapon. It's crazy.
The Lash and the Tash armor rigs are interesting to me because I'm considering
running a D&D space campaign. All right. So Ross had specific questions about the Lash and Tash. Grawl, if you're there, can you just post in I forget the rest of the acronym, but L is for light, T is for tactical. I believe it's, I can't remember the rest of it. The point is that a lash suit is has atmospheric integrity, will completely protect a person in zero G, zero atmosphere, allow them to maneuver. It's primarily made for being on a hull, being inside of a ship. Think of it as a SWAT team member. So Lash is a SWAT team member with plenty of body armor. And a TASH, tactical version of the suit, is RoboCop. RoboCop, these are heavily armored. This is heavy infantry with larger weapons, a much greater mobility factor. They can cover an enormous amount of space in space with the foils that they have on their back. These 4 small thrusters drop down and, when compacted, hide within the trunk frame of the suit. But when they extend, all 4 extend, that provides greater angular momentum that lets them maneuver at a much higher rate because the thrust is so far from the center of gravity. So these are basically like Mandalorians on steroids. It's I already wrote this when Mandalorian was season 3. The season 3 Mandalorian came out. No? 3 seasons. Know. The 3rd season of Mandalorian, the big battle at the end with the Mandalorians, that's very similar to what's going on with Tash armor. These are heavily armored people with very powerful weapons that can fly very fast, maneuver very quickly, and improvise in a great number of situations. So Ross, for your purposes, the Tash is basically, these are heavy space paladins. And the Lash are like armored rangers. They're space rangers.
No, but that's really true.
It's very accurate. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, I played one campaign. And when he said paladins and rangers, I was like, wait, no, that fits with my very basic knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're, at some point, I will move on to finding a talented individual who can design the armor, because guns are one thing. Coming up with a firearm that is unique, visually unique, that no one else has, that has some super cool shit to make gun nuts go, I fucking want one of those. That's the goal. I want people who love weapons to be like, I got to have that fucking prop. Much like I did with the pulse rifle, Alien's pulse rifle. A suit of armor is an exponentially more difficult design process, because a lot of people have designed a lot of fucking super cool sci-fi suits of armor. So this, again, has to be a very visual thing. Pierce Brown has done a lot of this with Red Rising. Pierce has put an enormous amount of time and money into trying to design armor that is visually unique for his property, for his IP. And eventually, hopefully, we'll get to see that played out on TV. But so that is where we're at. So eventually we'll get to the armor, Ross the Boss. That is it.
But also, Dawn, in the Facebook chat room, there is a complexity to making an Iron Man armor, because of the human inside that armor. And it's always complex because it's outside influences and inside reality.
Yeah. She's got a great point.
Yeah.
I guess if you're looking for that analogy, the standard Iron Man, this is difficult. The standard Iron Man armor would effectively be, I think that would be Tash armor, right? But you have to consider, no, I think let's call standard Iron Man Lash, and then the Hulk Burster is too big, but that's more along the lines of Tash armor. A Tash armored raider from the Planetary Union is not quite a walking tank, but more like a walking APC, if you will. They're fucking bad news. Bad news.
All of human existence, including right now, but quite literally all of human existence that's recorded, we have been trying to provide this meat sack with impenetrable armor. And that doesn't exist yet for this meat sack, because we're so close to the outside edges of an Iron Man suit or whatever. We will be impacted by being rattled around inside it, but yet we strive. We strive.
The concussions in general and internal organs in general, there's a bunch of shit physics says there is no compensation for whatsoever. A lot of people have tried it. The Expanse series really tries to approach, like, how do we mitigate the brain moving inside the head
and the
skull.
MCU and the NFL have both done that.
Yeah, they very. Sean Dyer
hard.
says Starship Troopers armor. With the original books, I would say it's an accurate comparison. With my beloved Starship Troopers movies, not even close. Those are ground pounders. So planetary forces are completely different from Raiders. Raiders have a very specific mission. They must have atmospheric integrity within the suit. They must have pressure within the suit. If the suit gets punctured, that must be filled in. They must be able to operate in a vacuum, in all elements of a vacuum. They must be able to operate in 0G. Starship Troopers, the movie, we are looking at, these are soldiers on a ground battlefield. They're not at all designed to operate in 0G or in a vacuum.
And of course, our dear friend Chris, who is the weapons expert.
He's so fucking smart, dude. He's so fucking,
he just said so cool. In the Facebook chat room, he just said the battle between armor and weapons has raged for centuries. And I don't disagree, even though he's the expert. Obviously, I'm not going to disagree with him. But I will say this. That's 100% true. But in a human mind, if I can make a sword or a weapon that can go through anything, I instinctively feel if I can make an implement I carry, I can also make a suit that will let me go through that. And those are wildly different things. Can we make a weapon that can kind of deal with the pressures of space, the atmospheres of space? I'm not talking mental pressures. I'm talking pressure. Mm-hmm. Yes. Can we make a suit that will protect a squishy human? No, not yet. We haven't done that yet.
Cobalt points out the armor from the rider can withstand being eaten and digested by a dinosaur. Yes, fact. You are surrounded by digestive juices and then feces. It's
but
still
not
not
a lot
quite
of pressure.
There's still the pressure's still the same.
It's
There's
like
still
a
atmosphere.
Squishy, it's a squishy meat suit pressure. It's not terribly hard.
I didn't think I'd hear my wife say, it's a squishy meat suit pressure.
But it is.
I'm like, why am I turned on by this? This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's ridiculous. So,
well, wait, this is actually important. Can I say, I think a lot of people in the United States, when they were in middle school or junior high school, whatever it was called for you, you went through a health class moment where you saw the impact of drinking and driving. And you probably, if you're my age, if you're a Gen Xer, you saw
the best.
like the road pizza video of like a person driving under the influence who got into a terrible accident and was like just smeared on the highway. This is the thing. Well, sure, but I will just tell you, every time, like in CRYPT Book I, very early on, I will say, spoiler alert for anybody who needs it, very early on in CRYPT Shakedown, we see the Raiders raid. And it doesn't go to plan, I'll say. Something happens, it doesn't quite go to plan. And every time something like that happens, I think of the 8th grade road pizza video.
Dude, listen. There are certain movies you have to watch in high school, at least the Gen Xers. We had to watch certain movies. Getting to watch West Side Story was fucking dope because I'm like, I don't like the musical theater. That's a bunch of bullshit. Look at all these fucking pronounces. Watch West Side Theater. I'm like, that shit was sick. That was a lot of fighting. That was pretty sweet. And then Romeo and Juliet, where that's not the movie, the version we saw. It's not something you should be showing to 15, 16-year-old boys in high school because they're not getting up from their desk ever. We're just gonna. I'll just sit here and take the 0. That is fact. That is factual. But then the driver's training videos, Death on the Highway,
Blood on the Highway,
and literally influenced my decision to become a horror writer because I was watching this and I'm like, oh, this is some Hollywood shit, whatever. Because, even though I was the biggest nerd in the world, I was too cool for school all the time. I was smarter than everybody. I knew more than blah, 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 blah. I didn't pay attention. I'm watching the video. I'm like, whatever, don't faze me. I've seen Faces of Death. I don't give a shit. And then they pull this body out from a fucking semi and this brother's head has been caved in and you can see the broken skull bits flopping with the skin holding it all together. And I remember I looked at them like, what? That's an actual dead person. And I was riveted. I was like, I want to see all 7 in this fucking series right now. Want to see it right now. It was an amazing movie. Amazing.
I will also say, for almost all of you out there, Faces of Death is not a thing you can Google and watch on YouTube. I've tried. Doesn't exist. But it was, if you went to an indie bookstore, or sorry, video, like Blockbuster Video, but an indie one, and they had a beaded curtain back room, it had lots of porn.
Yeah.
And also...
It's Skinamax porn, bro. What's up?
Yeah, it was definitely Skinamax porn. And it was also Faces of Death, which was shitty VHS tape video compilations of live humans dying on tape.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen,
It was terrible.
We got the voice of authority. We are talking to a junior manager of a
fucking full-on manager. How dare you? By the time I also wrote
Blockbuster
reviews.
Video.
I wrote
Blockbuster
reviews.
Video, fucking writing copy for the books,
Listen.
selling videos. My girl fucking ran that VH shit. She
Listen.
ran that show.
If any of you someday go back to your family home of origin, or you're cleaning out your parents' house or something like that, and you come across, it was like 3 inches wide. It was maybe 4 inches wide. It was very big.
You're thinking of me.
A Blockbuster Video review book. It was a mass market paperback. It was like this big. If it came out before 1998, and you read a review, which is about 20 words, of any Keanu Reeves movie, it was me who probably wrote that review.
I think Maya's pointed out the Bobby Draper armor. I don't know if I can show this.
Look at this.
Give me a second, you guys. I'm gonna try and show. Bear with me. You guys are all having your own drinks, so give me a second to see if I can figure this out for you. This is really cool looking.
Bobby Draper?
I don't know the Bobby Draper part. I think she took over. She was the second Iron Man or the third Iron Man.
I don't know either.
Maya, type in the chat room, man. Help us out, man. Help us out. Window capture.
Well, what I'm saying is,
there it is. Yep. Can I get the picture up? That's close enough. There we go. So we're going to do the best we can. Yep. No, I can't scroll up. Let me come over here. Hold on. So, Maya, is this what you're talking about right here? Because this is...
You can't. That's fine.
I can't. This is the closest we're going to get. This is in the ballpark.
She's gorgeous.
In the ballpark. This is hermetically sealed, full suit of armor, obviously. And yeah, so we're talking about... This is roughly the girth we are discussing. Because it can't be a fucking mecha suit of armor, right? Because you can't fit anywhere inside of a ship. And raiders are still technically light infantry. Get the ship, breach the ship, get inside, move to the control center, move to the CIC, capture the ship, capture anybody you can. These are not Hulkbuster armor. They can't be like that.
And
so it's complicated design.
And you can think of this because Gen Xers, now we're in a whole Gen X discussion. And yes, I worked for Blockbuster. I started as a just normal hourly employee, reshelving. And then for 3 years, I was something called an entertainment specialist. And I will look for my vest, which I still own, somewhere. So I just recommended movies to people for almost 3 years. And then I was a manager for a while. So yes, very Gen X. But what I will tell you is that Bobby Draper armor, think of it this way. Back when we were Gen Xers, we were like, okay, what if we could put a pulley on the moon? If I could put a pulley on the moon, I would only have to bend my finger like this, and I could literally raise and drop the sun. Like, if I could actually have a pulley. This is that sort of armor. If you think about this Bobby Draper armor that Scott just showed you is wonderful. If I drop Bobby Draper off the moon, Bobby Draper would die. Because she can't survive inside that tiny suit.
Yeah, that's
she
huge.
would just
It's a huge
get
part.
bounced in like this in the suit and be mush.
And The Expanse is one of the few. We're rattling on. The Expanse is one of the few books or TV series I've read where they try to address the internal organ, the internal spaces, and I'm sure there are many, many more. I don't read a lot of highbrow sci-fi, frankly.
Yeah,
So,
but there's always, and not even in highbrow sci-fi, in any sci-fi, if it exists outside of this universe, there's a moment where you have to accept the thing. And in the
Oh my
MCU,
God.
we accept that Jarvis and the suit somehow protect Tony Stark from terminal velocity.
yeah, you just don't. It's like Indy in the fucking fridge. You don't pay attention to that shit. You just let it go. Let it go.
And
Enjoy
we
yourself.
should. It's the right answer. But
Same thing with
that said,
Mandalorian. Don't worry about thrust and
What?
momentum. Don't let it go. Let it go.
why
It's fine.
can't they
I don't
take
give a
off their
shit.
helmets?
I don't give a shit. No, that's cultural. That's different than the physics involved. That's
Right,
cultural.
but we still don't know why that
and
is.
I've been arguing about this shit
But we
for
don't know
fucking
why
ever.
it is, and it doesn't
Because it's a
matter.
goddamn religion. You don't need any knowledge for religion. You just make
That's
it.
what I'm saying. We accept
All
it
right.
at face value because it doesn't damage the Mandos,
All right.
right?
Here we go. Baby, please read Cobalt USA's comment, and then you and I will close out and go do some Fortnite. This is a This is a linear comment.
Cobalt says, my family would get the old displays from Blockbuster and use them at the range for target practice. And I believe he's talking about movie posters or the standees, what they call the
cardboard.
standees.
Oh, you know the name and everything.
Yeah,
You're so sick,
so
dude. You're like an
there's
80s
movie-
master chick. Master. What's up?
I work for Blockbuster, so yeah. There's the movie posters, which are like 18 or 24 by 36 movie posters, just like you still see at the cinema.
Brolo in the house.
Hey, Jude.
Sup, Brolo?
I love you, Jude. Just like you still see at the cinema. If you go right now, you'll see a 24 by 36 movie poster. We had those. Movie posters are sometimes backlit, so you see different things than if you would order them to hang up on your wall because it's got a light box behind it. And then there's a third version, which is the displays, which could be 3D cutout shapes. So it could be, I don't know, the Grinch, but cut out and everything. And here's my thing that I'll tell you. Was it Cobalt? He was saying he would take those and the family would take those to a shooting range. But if you love a movie that you have seen, you are absolutely welcome and you should go to the management of the theater that you saw it in and say, hey, if nobody wants that poster, I would love to have it.
Yep.
And they just write your name on the back of it. And if nobody else asks.
I missed out on my favorite, what do you call them? Cutout pop-ups? What do you call them?
So a cutout is standing on the ground. A movie poster is just
My favorite cutout of all time, one that has wound up influencing my career because the cutout was so sick. Pumpkinhead, Demon of Revenge.
Oh,
I saw this shit in the theater and I was like, I saw Pumpkinhead sitting there and I was like, Rob, we got to go see this movie. And Rob's at 16, Rob out was like, bro, this movie's going to suck. I'm not going to see this. I'm like, no, dude, it's Pumpkinhead. We got to see Pumpkinhead. He's the Demon of Revenge. So I've watched all the Pumpkinhead movies. I love them. Side note. All right, we're going to get out of here. Let's go. Time to go home. Ross the Boss, email us, info@emptyset. Of course, those of you who have not signed up yet, you absolutely should text SIGTEXT to 855-955-5095. You get 10% off anything that we ship in the Sigler store. Go to scottsigler.com/store. See all the glorious goodies. We got Crypt shirts. We got fucking hats. We got GFL shirts. There's so much stuff you can rub on your junk. It's preposterous. You get 10% off. Sign up for that shit. And then, of course, last but not least is...
wait, David Lamb, you emailed me a specific issue. I replied to you, but I don't think you checked that email
Bye, Ross.
about a T-shirt. So check that.
All
Let
right,
me
so
know.
that is it, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back on March... That's you. Go.
Yeah, we will be back on Wednesday, March 6th for Slay episode 50.
Steve, I am going to see Dune Part 2 in the theaters. Maybe I thought the first one, the story was very slow. I just want to see all the crazy special effects. But until
Then
March 6th, we want you to stay smart.
we absolutely need you to stay science. It's still a thing, you guys.
And for the love of science, We want you to stay informed. Read things that are written by actual doctors and actual scientists, not bros who do their own research, because they
Nothing
probably
on
don't know
Facebook.
as much as a doctor or scientist. Maybe they do. I don't know. I can't prove the world isn't flat. I'm just saying.
We will see you